Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to the Middle Ages. We rely on these big, foundational historical images to understand human progress, right? But what happens when the source material reveals that our most vivid historical memories are, well, completely wrong?
When you picture the Dark Ages, some pretty vivid images probably flood your mind. We tend to treat these mental pictures as unquestioned reality. But what if the era you're imagining literally never happened? It causes a bit of immediate cognitive dissonance, I know, but the vast majority of the imagery we hold onto as historical truth is actually a complete fabrication. Everything you think you know is about to be challenged.
Section 1. The Dark Ages Illusion, a Modern Fabrication.
Section 2. Rapid-fire historical myths. Myth versus reality.
Okay, let's look at the pattern of these modern illusions. Take the ultimate medieval stereotype, the pervasive belief in the flat Earth. Well, in reality, medieval scholars absolutely knew the Earth was a sphere. The whole flat Earth myth is just a modern fabrication. It was popularized much later by fictionalized storytelling, specifically 19th century biographies of figures like Christopher Columbus. They literally invented a conflict with flat earthers just to make early voyages seem more heroic. It simply overwrote the actual historical truth. Or consider the horned Viking helmet. It's one of the most instantly recognizable historical images in the world, right? Towering, brutal warriors charging into battle with massive horns. But there's no way around it. It's complete fiction. You can trace it back, not to Viking history, but to 19th century opera costume designers. Most notably, the folks who added horns to Richard Wagner's stage productions just for dramatic flair.
And this phenomenon extends way beyond the Middle Ages. Think about Napoleon. The famous myth of his unusually short stature is, you guessed it, another modern fabrication. It was heavily fueled by British political propaganda at the time, aiming to diminish his stature, both literally and figuratively. This illusion is absolutely everywhere. Section 3. The biological truth. Looking at the science. So to really shatter these illusions, we have to slow down and look at the hard, undeniable biological data. When we analyze the actual biology of human growth, our perspective entirely shifts. The physical reality of the human body cuts straight through these modern fabrications and gives us an unshakable baseline of truth about who these people actually were.
I want you to anchor your attention on one specific measurement, 170 centimeters. This single number represents a biological truth that definitively destroys one of the greatest historical myths we've ever created. So, whose measurement is this?
The average Viking man was exactly 170 centimeters tall. That is the exact same height as other European men of the era. The myth of the towering behemoth? Entirely crushed by the bone data. They weren't giants, they stood right eye to eye with the rest of Europe. Section 4. The decline of data, how history is obscured.
So how do we get from average height men without horns to giant warriors on a flat Earth? Well, it all comes down to the gradual decline of data. This is the phenomenon where original historical truths are slowly obscured by centuries of cultural evolution. Think of it kind of like a massive, multi-generational game of telephone, where pristine truth is eventually buried under layers and layers of storytelling.
The decay of truth happens in stages. It always starts with the original historical data, like a 170-centimeter warrior wearing a totally normal hornless helmet. Then comes cultural evolution, where stories get embellished for entertainment over the centuries. And eventually, the facts blur entirely, giving birth to a complete modern fabrication.
It brings us back to a pretty stark realization. Almost everything you think you know is actually a modern fabrication. Backed by biological truth and the mechanics of cultural evolution, we can clearly see how the gradual decline of data replaces reality with a complete illusion. Which leaves us with a fascinating and honestly slightly unsettling question to ponder. What modern truths will future generations completely misinterpret about us? If history really is just a multi-century game of telephone, what's going to happen to our data? Keep questioning the facts and never stop learning.